Hey, everybody, and welcome to the lounge. How's everybody doing this Friday evening? 9:04 p.m. We have this amazing show tonight. I cannot wait to tell you guys all about it. First of all, if you guys have been here last week, you will know Mr. Eric Sperazza, extraordinaire. He's an extraordinaire. He is a former paranormal investigator who was a skeptic turned believer, then turned skeptic. Then he had bad knees, and then he had good knees or weird knees, and now his knees are perfect. And he just transformed his body and his life. And now we don't know what he believes, but we do know that last week he got a surprise reading live on the air with Elise and I, and he wasn't expecting it. We weren't expecting it. And he was a tough nut to crack, but we cracked him. And that sounded really weird that we cracked it. We didn't spank him. We didn't do that. But we did break him down a little bit because the information was coming through. He still didn't know a lot of things that were going on. And then after the show, a couple hours later, he sent me a long message giving me all sorts of validations from the reading. And this is what normally happens. So it's very important that if you're doing mediumship readings and you're learning how to do mediumship, that you trust what's coming to you, even if the other person is saying no. So let's say hello to the people in the chat room. Hey, everybody. We have Margaret here. Oh, we have Kelly. Can't wait for tonight's lounge. So exciting. We have Donna. Hi, Donna. Debbie. She was on last night's porch. She got a surprise reading. I can't wait to bring Debbie back on next week to talk about her updates because she has updates from last night's reading. Elise is here. She is backstage ready to watch, but she also read Eric last week, so she's here. Hi, everybody. We got Jamie, Mary Kay, Carol, Stephanie, and Nober. I still don't even know your first name, but there you are. Hi, everybody. It's good to see everybody. Awesome. Well, without further ado, let me bring in Mr. Eric Sperazza. Hey, Eric, how are you?
What is up?
What's going on?
No, I've had an interesting week since the last time we spoke.
Tell me about it. I want to hear everything. I gotta get my jazz music back on because it went off.
I need some jazz fusion before we can go forward. There we go. Yeah.
Awesome. So tell us. Tell us about. So last week you had a reading. You weren't expecting a reading. You were hoping maybe for a reading.
Yeah. So here's the thing. I've lost a lot of family in the last 2 years. I lost two people that raised me, my grandparents, who had raised me for a good part of my life. We know my mom had passed away a few years ago from cancer, and I lost a couple of friends. So, it's weird when you and Elise, hi Elise, when you and Elise were bringing things up, I think that I almost forgot that it's not what you want to come through. You just have to kind of make sense of what's coming through. And that's something that I kind of forgot last week. I really wanted the pieces of the puzzle to connect and hear something from like my grandfather or my mom in a way. And there were things that you and Elise were throwing at me that didn't make sense in the moment. And I was kind of perplexed and in a way kind of down on it. I was like, wow, this may not be for me. This may be for somebody else. Maybe it's George. Maybe it's Mary. Maybe it's Tish. I don't know. But it can't possibly be for me because it's not something that's recognizable to my grandfather or my mom, at least initially, right? But I did some due diligence. And one of the big things you kept saying over and over again was ashtray.
The yellow ashtray, the old 70s ashtray.
With the metal.
With the metal stand, yeah.
Round, right, the stand. So I was surely not connecting the dots there because that wasn't for me. That was for somebody else. It was for Donna or Ann or somebody else. However, it just so happens that my grandparents, who I lived with for a good amount of time up in Queens, we would visit my grandmother's father, my great-grandfather, John DeToma. We would visit him every Friday. My grandmother would cook fish for him because they observed no meat on Fridays, right? Even if it's not Lent. And I drew a picture of him. He was an old kind of a classy Sicilian Italian man. He had always wore like a three-piece suit, even when he was just hanging around the house. Mm-hmm. And always sat in his recliner smoking Virginia Slims. He cut back. He used to do 2 packs of Lucky Strikes a day. He dialed it down to a pack of Virginia Slims a day. And I drew a picture of him once sitting in his recliner, a caricature for my grandmother of her father.
Right.
And I drew him in his, 70s Sears three-piece suit, smoking a cigarette next to his ashtray.
Oh my God.
That went down to the floor.
Oh my goodness.
I called my dad after our reading. Now my dad it's not his side of the family, it was my mom's, but I said, Dad, I got this message about an ashtray, and I don't know what it doesn't pertain to me. And my dad just stopped on the phone and said, you know who had an ashtray. Like, you know. He won't say it. He's playing the guessing game with me. You know who it is. Well,
obviously you didn't know because you couldn't figure it out on the show.
After his sixth, it was very Bobby De Niro of him. You know. But guess what? I did know. And sure enough, somewhere in this house is this picture. I've been frantically looking for it for like all week. I can't seem to find it. My grandparents, who just recently passed, they had it in the house, and a family member kind of stuck the picture over to me that I drew of him with the cigarettes and the ashtray that went down to the floor. So that's the first dot that I connected, I guess you could say. You had mentioned who Deb or Debbie or Deborah was to my mom. Right. You said there was some kind of conversation that happened with my mom and this woman shortly after my mom passed. Well, it just so happens to be that my mom's best friend growing up was a woman named Deborah. They grew up in Queens together. And I reached out to Deborah on Facebook on Friday night after we spoke. And I said, Deborah, I have a really weird question for you. I know I don't talk to you often. I'm a 43-year-old son of your best friend. Our paths don't really cross too much. But did you ever, or had you ever talked to my mom after she had passed? And she said, well, I don't have any specific memory of a dream of a conversation or an actual conversation, but you should know that I talk to your mom every day. I wish her good morning every day, and hopefully she responds. But it was just an interesting thing. It forced me to have this conversation with someone that speaks to my mom all the time, daily. So that was interesting.
Awesome. And the dollar bill, the tattered dollar bill. Yeah. What was that about?
So
what did I tell you? Because I don't even remember like what I say in these readings. So what did I actually tell you?
This was brilliant. So you kept saying there's a dollar bill, a crunchety old dollar bill, tattered looking in a book, right?
Mm-hmm. And a little rip on the top. I have
no idea what you're talking about. However, I did inherit a few of my grandfather's Frank Sinatra books and some of his Brooklyn Dodger books, and I went through everything Friday night, and I shook and nothing fell out. So Saturday night, I go to my grandparents' house. My uncle now lives there. He was their caretaker in the end of their lives, and he inherited the house, and he's living there in beautiful and spacious Hainesport, New Jersey. And I went to his house, oddly enough, to help him with a work project. I was building a PowerPoint deck and audio video clips for him for a presentation. And that's my grandparent's son, right? So I went ahead and I stopped typing. I stopped developing for a moment. And I peeked my head up and I said, hey, man, I got a weird thing. I have some notes here from a medium reading on Friday. I said, let me just throw something at you. Did you find a dollar bill by any chance? And he looked at me and he dropped his fork and he started to well at the eyes. Now, this is not a soft kind of a guy. This was a former NYPD cop. This is like a tough street brawling kind of an old school Italian. Wow. Just looked at me and welled up and got teary-eyed and walked away. He had to walk away. And I'm like, what the heck did I just say to this man? He comes back in the room about 5 minutes later, and he hands me an old school checkbook holder, right? Like the vinyl thing you would keep your checks in back in the day. He opens it up and tosses it across the counter. And in there is a tattered bill that was worth $1 silver that my grandfather bought as an investment. I think it's worth like $30 today, but he bought $1 worth of silver, and it shows up as like a dollar bill. Mm-hmm. But it represents $1 silver. And it was a tattered bill in this book. And he's like, now I can't sleep tonight. So thanks for that.
Wow.
But my
That's
note.
awesome.
Oh yeah, that was my experience last Friday. And
so you were a skeptic though, like you were back into your skeptical mode, even though you had all those experiences growing up and doing the paranormal investigating. Do you feel like this experience kind of, you're putting you on toward the other area of things?
It definitely, it made my whole week. And I have
awesome.
That not only did it make my whole week, but there was a dot that I did connect on Friday that I just elaborate on just a little bit more.
Sure.
A stereo. You said that my mom was showing you a stereo, an old school stereo with tall speakers.
Yeah.
And for me that didn't hear, I kind of touched on it a little bit. I wasn't trying to get too deep into it because I wanted to hear if you were going someplace with it. But ironically enough, over quarantine, my dad had given me I wanted a record player. I wanted to start collecting vinyl, like old school classic vinyl, stuff that my parents listened to when I was a kid, stuff that I should have owned on vinyl and I didn't. So he gifted this to me, this old school stereo that someone donated to his church. And, there's not a lot of need for homeless people for record players. They need things like food and shoes. So he gave this thing. And so I've been going out and buying these classic vinyl albums. But specifically, my mom was a huge Stevie Nicks fan, diehard Fleetwood Mac fan. Okay. So I went out and bought all the Fleetwood Mac records, and we've been listening to it, my kids and I, for the last 2 months, like over. And I always say, this was your grandmother's favorite singer. This was your grandmother's favorite album. Rumors was her favorite album. And we've been playing it nonstop. So that was something that really was special to me because I made a point of introducing my kids, to my mom's records on an old record player with tall speakers. And that's not something on Facebook or anything. That's just for me and my family. So here you are.
Well, Eric, thank you so much for, first of all, getting the reading. And I hope that it changed, the way you felt and maybe put you in a more positive direction moving forward, and that you feel better and that you feel less alone in this world, and that people are around and they're looking out for you and they're supporting you. And your mom said happy birthday, which is a big thing for you in that reading last week. So that was really cool.
It's that was another thing huge. I didn't even write the note on that, but that was something that was very special when it happened.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I can't thank you enough for the time. I always love our conversations, whether it's about knees or ghosts or whatever. This one was like a little investigative journey you took me on, and it pleasantly surprised many people, not just me. You brought joy to my father and my uncle and my kids all week. So that makes you the most special person in my life this week.
Oh, thank you, Eric. Well, it was so good. I'm sure that all the people that are watching usually here last week and the week before. So I'm sure it's so nice to get that validation that I don't really see after readings. Like, people take the information, they go home, and you were able to let me know what happened. And I really appreciate that. And our viewers really appreciate that. And we hope to see you back again very soon.
Awesome. Thank you guys very much for having me. I appreciate it.
All right. We'll see you. I'll see you backstage. We'll bring you on later.
Cool beans. Take care, guys.
Right. Bye. All right, guys. Well, I'm so happy you guys were actually here to talk about Eric. People think it was really cool. Let's see. Kelly said she loved that Eric was able to connect the dots. Oh, wow. This is wonderful. Everybody's excited. Elise is excited. We're all excited. Welcome to Leslie. It's her first time here. Welcome, Leslie. Thanks for showing up. All right. Well, you guys have been waiting for this all week. We've been promoting this all week. And this is a guy that I'm going to be bringing on next that is not only someone I know now, it's someone I've been around about 7 years ago when I had the Intuitate radio show. And he came on as a regular, as a relationship expert. He's an Amazon.com best-selling author. His name is Bob Grant. And he's author of The Attraction Factor, The Women Men Adore, and The Bonding Stages. And for over 20 years, he has shown women how effortless it can be to have a man completely devoted to making you happy. Oh my God, are you guys drooling yet? Don't you want to know what this man has that's magical that we don't understand as women? That's what everybody wants. I mean, how could you not go and buy Bob's books right now, just from the title? Currently, he hosts the Women Men Adore Facebook group, and his website is relationshipheadquarters.com, which I will post on the bottom as a graphic in a little bit. But let me just tell you a quick story about Bob before we bring him on. And we have some, before we go on, we have some ladies that have been very gracious and very brave. And they're coming on tonight to talk about their love lives and the things that they feel they're caught in these cycles. Now, we all know about cycles. We all know that sometimes we get in relationships and then we think we're leaving that person to get into a new relationship where all those problems are gone away, but we keep picking the same person over and over again, just a different face. And so we're cycling, and it's very hard to break those negative patterns. And so we have two brave women that are coming on to put themselves out there. So I don't want anybody being mean. I don't want anybody pointing the finger or having some weird comments. There's a lot of people here that are fans of this show and that are here every week. So I give you permission to go after anybody who has anything mean to say to these ladies, because they are very brave. So we have moderators in the chat room. Elise is there. She's not on here tonight. You know how tough she could be. So she's going to be the bulldog over there. So let me just hear what you guys have to say real quick. Luana, I am beyond help. Love this show. Betsy's excited. And Debbie, without further ado, well, you want to welcome Bob Grant, everybody? I think it's time. Welcome, Bob.
Thank you. Thank you.
Oh, wow,
my introduction, I want to hear what I've got to say.
No. So do you want to just give the ladies a little bit of an overview on your history, what you do best in helping women, and, what you're all about?
Sure. So, mine started with as a family therapist, and then I had a group of women at a local paper here, the Atlanta Constitution, and one of them liked me a lot. She was a hairstylist, and she told everybody, and I just found that group of ladies really interesting. And most of what I found was a lot of them would go out a lot. They, had no trouble getting dates, but it was always either something with third date, fifth date, 3 years, 5 years. For some reason, it wasn't, they couldn't figure out what it was. And they were doing well in so many different areas. And it was just felt like they were banging their head against the wall. So I heard that time and time again. And you mentioned something that I find is about patterns or cycles people are in, because it wasn't the simple stuff of I need to, whatever, lose 5 pounds or smile more or whatever. It was something else going on. And, like a puzzle, that's what we're going to do with tonight with a couple ladies, is if you view it sort of as a puzzle to figure out versus being harsh and stupid and dumb and, those kind of things, then you get some insights. And a lot of times it doesn't require a lot of massive change necessarily. Sometimes there's just one or two things. But the other side is that it feels kind of vulnerable to do that. And there's kind of no way to avoid being vulnerable, because that's what men pick up on. Of course, most women have had men that have been really ugly and mean, which means don't be vulnerable. And you can see how that sort of starts the cycle right there. I don't want to get hurt, but I want someone to come close, but I don't want to get hurt. And so a lot of times the puzzle is kind of helping them unbuckle that to how do we make this work for you versus, tear down walls or, pour your heart out, the extreme kind of stuff, which doesn't work. So, but I like it. After 20 years or so, I still like it a lot.
Well, I have to tell lady, I was talking about this on the live webcast last night, that you came on my show, and I had a guy at that point, I was single, and I went out on one date with him, and then he ghosted me. And then 2 months later, wrote me a text saying he wanted to get, talk again or give me another chance. And I said, you know what? This is a wonderful opportunity for my listeners to understand why a ghost ghosts. So I said, because I'm a negotiator, I want to negotiate. Mm-hmm. I said, all right, if you want to go on another date, it's under one condition. You come on our live radio show, and I'm going to have a panel of people. I'm going to have a psychotherapist analyze your mental well-being. I'm going to have all my psychic friends look into you psychically. I'm going to have my ex-boyfriend, who's still like a brother to me. He's the co-host. I'm going to have him analyze you. And everybody there were about 7 people, and he won most of them over when he came on, because it had to be unanimous for me to go on a date with him again. Mm-hmm. And I remember during that show, and you're in Montana, so it's not like you could be in the studio. Most of them were in the studio face-to-face with him. You were in Montana, and you said, Marissa, you told him to take off his headphones. That's what you said. You asked him to take off his headphones. And then you told me, Marissa, this guy, you got to be cautious because he's going to do it again. and you told me why. And, you know, he was a likable guy. He was very charming, very good looking. And he charmed everybody else, but you saw through it. You saw something that nobody else was able to see, even the psychics, a lot of them. And you were right on, let me tell you. And so it was just amazing. And we followed on that show. We followed two of my friends' love lives, and they were repeating cycles. Both of them wanted their ex-boyfriends back. Mm-hmm. Both of them ended up getting them back, but didn't end up sticking. But you were coaching them throughout the season. And it was like a live docudrama of all these relationship things. Mm-hmm. And you were there. And I just have to tell you, you're good. So you've written a number of books, right? How many books have you written?
Probably 7.
7 books. That's a lot of dedication and diligence. Let me say that. And so what I would want to just ask you before bringing on our ladies, what would you say was your just a really a success story that was really great? Like, is there one success story that just, you know, comes to mind that was really a big turnaround?
One, you know, the most popular one is the Women Men Adore, Never Want to Leave program. And that was a woman that she was in her early 40s, had like 5 children under the age of like 7. And I remember her saying to me, you know, who's going to want to be with a single mom with 5 small kids? And I mean, there's some logic. I get what she was saying, but she really took what we talked about to heart. And, you know, it was dark there for a while because, you know, when you're kind of looking at emotions and all, it's not always pleasant, but she stuck with it. And, you know, and then she was doing better and I lost track of her. And I remember she came in, you know, I hadn't seen her like in a year. And she came in and stuck her hand right out like this. And there was this big ring on it, you know, and just didn't say anything, but I just couldn't have been more happy for her, because if anyone deserved, you know, someone that was really wonderful, it was her, because of what she had been through, you know, early on in her marriage. And that really showed me that, I mean, I guess there's exceptions, but there really isn't a lost cause. I mean, I can come up with reasons if someone's horrible and all, but, you know, she had every reason not to succeed, but she just wanted it. And she was willing to do what it took. And that's different for each person. And she was willing to look inside. And that, you know, from her was one of the reasons I wrote the book, the first one.
Oh, you wrote it because you were inspired by her?
Her and others, but she was like the final one. She was the one that, because, you know, when you get a client in there, you have to believe for them, even if it's impossible. I mean, unless it's just absurd.
Yeah.
But I didn't know how, but she wanted it, and that was good enough for me. And so we tried and stuck and tried and stuck. And she was the one that just saw what happens over time when a woman's really good at putting her heart first. And it took a fair amount of practice, because she'd had a lot of people in her life that had been really ugly to her, you know, and convinced her to be guarded. But once she got it, the nice thing is once you get it, you never go back. You know, it's like snow skiing or.
Yeah. So how did you know that this just wasn't another guy in the cycle? How did you know that she had actually picked someone that was different from all the rest of them and actually had broken the cycle? Like how did you know he was a good guy?
It was more so that she was different. So like a couple of guests had mentioned something similar, but the idea is that, you know, we can pick whoever we want. They can be an alcoholic or drug addict. I mean, no one wants that. But if that person gets it, if that person's working on it, that'll work. The bigger issue is someone being in denial. You know, I don't have a temper. I don't have a problem with drugs. It's that denial stuff. That's when it's scary. And, you know, because, you know, the journey she went on, if the guy had gone out of bounds or something, because actually he had broken up for like 6 months. She just, instead of going down that cycle she always did, she cut it off sooner, and she was terrified that she really liked him. But this was a long time. It took him about 6 months to realize what he had done from what are you thinking, leaving her? And when he came back, he was desperate. I mean, and desperate means do whatever it takes, you know, marry her, you know, I don't mean just say it, but go through. And he realized how lucky he was, but she was the main difference. Because if it had been the wrong guy, remember, a woman that's good at this doesn't change a man, she reveals him. So if he's got a temper, he's going to have a worse temper. And if he's wonderful, he'll be wonderful. I tell it, women are like gasoline, men are the fire. You don't change a man, you magnify what's inside.
Okay.
So she learned that, versus trying to control it. He's mad. How can I not get him mad? He's happy. How can I make him more happy? I mean, there's some to that, but that doesn't work as well. If I realize as a woman that I'm an accelerant, that's me thinking like a guy, but that's just what I do. Is that's a lot of power, but that's not the same thing as I can change him.
Yeah.
You're not going to change him. You can influence him if he wants, and you can make him more of, and you can make his progress faster, which I think is magical. But I'm not going to change character, and I'm not going to change personality. I can influence his son. And that was probably for her the thing she was, if he was upset or something, it's okay if he was upset. That wasn't her job to fix it. I mean, she'd be gracious, but so just things like that. And those things started to accumulate. And after a while, she just bought into what I was telling her. I just said it to her enough, and eventually she just gave in and believed it.
Okay. Well, yeah, because I'm like, a lot of people are like, oh, I need the ring on the finger. But then what about, the next 20 years? It's like, is he treating you well? Is he respecting you? Is he being kind and courteous? And is he good to your children or your family? So why did they break up for 6 months? I mean, there obviously had to be some sort of breakdown in the relationship to have this breakthrough. So was he exhibiting bad behavior? Is that what it was?
He just wasn't sure.
Oh, he wasn't committing.
He wasn't sure. He had these doubts. He had these, and he had some reasons for that. And instead of her trying to reassure him, she was gracious. She didn't chase. It took some courage. She didn't try to reassure because, I mean, here she is, 5 young children. This guy's really close. It'd be, no one would say this out loud, but it'd be really easy to try to make this work because he's, likes him and all. But she, to her credit, did not do it. And I remember her coming in just being scared and sad, and when's this going to happen again? But she stuck to her truth and let that, all the stuff that she had done, work its magic. And with men, it takes men a while. We have a lag. Just, women, a lot of times you can explain it and they get it, quicker than men. Men, there's always a lag. And I know it frustrates women. Like I told him this, I said, I know you did. I said, but he's got to think about it and feel it. He's not like you. He doesn't do this fast like you do. Not with emotional stuff.
Yeah.
Because it's not an insight problem. It's a motivation or an emotional problem. And as men, we're just not used to that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I think what I see with my clients and the frustration that I see, and we're going to bring on one of my actual coaching clients that I've been with long term. And I try to, I've seen this woman through several relationships over the years, breakups, the in-betweens. And this goes for a lot of my clients, is that I can predict, I can tell them, this is what's going to happen. Here's the minefield. You're going toward the mine. This is what's going to happen. This is why. This is your past. And they're like, I don't care, Marisa. I just want to know when I'm going to meet the next man. Like, I could tell you when you're going to meet the next man. I could tell you what he looks like. I could probably tell you his name, what kind of shoes he wears, what kind of hair he has. But they're going to come back a year later and say, wow, Marisa, I met this man, but you know what? It didn't work out again. Now I'm depressed. So when am I going to meet the next man? Mm-hmm. And so I started working with people short and long term on transformational processes so they can break that cycle and change their future. Mm-hmm. And there still comes a point where triggers tend to come up and disrupt the process, and then there's sabotage. Mm-hmm. So this woman that's coming on is a very good client of mine. I'm very close with her. We've been working together for a long time. The last guy, I remember, because I do a blend of intuition and coaching, and she told me about him. And I said, of all the men you've ever dated, of all the men and everything we talked about, I said, this guy's dangerous. I feel he's dangerous. I don't feel he's good. I said, I think you're going down a really bad path with him. And I actually am concerned for you. Just the vibe I was getting, you know what I mean? And what she was telling me. And she had to play it through. We talked about it. She's like, okay, these red flags are coming up. I'm painting them green, And then it turned out like out of all the work she did, she ended up picking the worst one after all this therapy and all this coaching. This is the worst guy. So we finally she got out of with him. Now she's with somebody else 2 months into it. And he's still not giving her that commitment. And I want this for her. And you're like kind of like a good luck Chuck, I think, Bob. I think once a woman talks to you, I believe you're like the Santa Claus of relationships. I think that you're the good luck Chuck. So I'm going to bring her on, and I know you can work your magic here. All right. No pressure.
No pressure.
No pressure. So let's bring our friend Britt on, and she's going to talk a little about her experience, and then she's going to talk to Bob, and we're going to watch Bob work his magic. Everybody already wants to know about your book, so we're going to bring those on soon. And so welcome to the stage, Britt. She's anonymous tonight, guys, but it's going to help her kind of reveal what she needs to reveal. Hi, Brittany.
Hi, Marissa. Hi, Bob. Thanks for having me.
Sure. Hi, Brittany.
So, Brittany, do you want to add anything to what you heard me say about our experience together?
I think you hit the nail on the head. And my question for Bob is, are you ready for Christmas in August?
Oh, I'm ready. I am Christmas.
Oh,
Marissa.
wow. Wow. Bob is not messing around tonight, let me tell you. All right. So, Brittany, should we get to the chase? I'm just going to let Bob let Bob go. I'm going to open the gate, and the Greyhound is going to go, and he's ready, and everybody's going to be impressed. All right. Go for it, Bob.
Okay. So, Brittany, I know we talked a little bit ahead of time. So you worked with Marissa for a while. What do you think is the problem, first off?
I mean,
thought about this a lot.
it sounds generic and cliche, but just attracting emotionally unavailable men, because that is how I garnered love growing up, is through emotionally unavailable parents, through, various issues and reasons of their own. So, and then because it's in my nature to work hard and everything has to be perfect. I mean, what you were saying earlier about not changing people, you always think, or my stand-ups in the past have just been, oh, I can love them through this, or I'll show up and I'll be consistent, and I'll just not be a pain in the ass, or whatever it is. And then time goes on and no one's ready, or just bad patterns play out, whether it's in the realm of addiction or whether it's in the realm of personality disorder, or I subscribe to therapy and coaching and read the books, and sometimes that's harder for men, right? So that you are on the same wavelength there in relationships. But I think it's this ingrained process from childhood of what I have to do for someone to love me back. And my therapist would always say, just work less hard, Britt. You need to work less hard.
Okay, so you said a couple of things as far as it being ingrained. So I'm going to change the word and say familiar, because the nice thing, I mean, if that was who you were, you would not only want to change it, it would feel wonderful and stuff. I think it's just familiar is my guess. So I'm going to slide to you. So the counseling theory says is that not just you, but in general, what someone's doing is if we have unresolved stuff, we had trauma stuff growing up, it's familiar, and I'm going to try to resolve that trauma through other people. So the classic is the woman that goes from one alcoholic man to the next. She's not stupid, she's not dumb, but she's trying to resolve something by fixing these guys. And this is how clever our brain is. It's what these men have in common. It's not just that they're exciting, it's that they're not boring. So how well do you do with being bored?
Right. That's Marissa and I talk about that all the time. Normal and healthy reads boring to me.
Yes.
And that last guy, Britt, he exhibited such bad behavior early on, in the way he talked to you, like disrespectfully and stuff. He was just Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. He was like nice one minute and mean the next. You just didn't know what was happening with him.
For sure. So
the fast track, I mean, this is really the fast track, is you practicing staying in a relationship while you're bored. Now, as soon as I say this, I hear this all the time from women. And they don't even say it now, but I've learned just to put the words in their mouth. oh, great, Bob, you want me to date short, bald, and fat. No, not what I want you to date. It's not it. But that's what it feels like. Because the fear is, see, the thing of being in a bored relationship, it feels trapped.
Sure.
And generally, that's what we're trying to avoid, whether it's alcoholic parents or personality disorders or mean or abusive or cheating, or it's that feeling of trap growing up. And there's nothing more feeling trapped than bored. Because at least if it's really bad, I can try to fix it or I can leave, but just boring, I don't want that. And so, because sometimes men wouldn't make good husbands, they're not good at dating. That doesn't mean if they're bad at dating, they're good husbands necessarily, but just being good at dating and being a good husband are not the same skill set.
Wait, can you explain that? I'm so confused. That's something new.
So, I mean, if you're good at dating in general, you tend to know how to focus really quick with women. You know how to give them their undivided attention. You're on, like right now I'm on, focused. And you do that and you give women the impression you're like this all the time.
Okay.
No man is like this all the time. He can't. He can do it at first and he may do it for the first few weeks, whatever, but at some point he's going to crash. And women go, what? What did I do wrong? You might not have done anything wrong. He just crashed. And then if the guys that are not good for you will blame you. You nag too much, you complain too much, pick something, you do this. It'll be something real, but it's just disproportionate to what they're doing. The man that's good for marriage is the one when you're sick, when your kid's up at night, when money's tight, he'll do whatever it takes to make sure you're safe. I don't necessarily mean like a dad, but whatever it takes. And that will mean more to you once you're married. Mm-hmm. When you're dating, I mean, that doesn't really come up as much. You think we can guess because we all kind of project in dating. The guy smiles, that means he's nice. Not really. It's just my brain's kind of filling in the gap. So I think he's nice. And there's nothing wrong with that. And if we jump in too quick and make assumptions, it feels good because I don't want to hurt again. I don't want to get burned again, and I rush it. So let me ask you this, Brittany. How good are you at pacing a man?
Not good at all. Well, I've been on both extremes of this, right? So before the last bad one, I took a friendship, a 5-year friendship. And I mean, it took me 8 or 9 months to, have a conversation and convert what was a really good friendship into a dating relationship. And then the one after that, there was, 1 weekend together and then we were in a relationship. So I have been over the last couple of years on both ends of the extreme, a super long patient conversion and a 48-hour conversion.
I got to step in here though, Britt. Got to step in on you here. You saw how that guy treated other women though, that you were going, the 5-year one, you saw how he treated other women.
And thought I would be the exception, right? I knew all the tricks. I knew what to avoid. I'm the friend. I know what's happening here. And same.
Actually, that's a good quality for a wife. Keep the quality. When a man's all in, be gracious, be understanding of his hot buttons and all that stuff. But in dating, in fairness to you or any woman, if you do that, you're going to train him that 80% of it's up to you. I love the quality. I just don't like the timing.
Sure.
So, but I don't want to get rid of that quality because most all of us get in trouble over using our gifts. If I'm empathetic under stress, I'm a doormat. Mm-hmm. If I'm take charge under stress, I'm a tyrant. So there's nothing wrong with being take charge or empathetic. The problem is when it's like cheating. I fudge like in a game cheating, like a cheat. It's just easy to use that because it fills in the gaps because I don't want to feel out of control. I don't want to feel bored. I don't want to feel scared. But we need those feelings. They're trying to tell us something. But if I had association growing up with those feelings of being out of control, part of me is like, oh, don't feel that. But I actually need to. In the same way my leg needs to hurt if it's injured. I don't want it to hurt, but I need it to if it's injured. It's no good if I just numb it out.
Sure.
Yeah. So like most of the women I work with and most of the clients that come to me included, have dysfunctional past, have trauma in our past. So it's not like we have all this great dating advice. We have to apply that on top of trauma bonding and attachment theory and all sorts of like, oh, I'm an anxious attacher. Oh, I'm triggered by these types of men and these cycles. So it's like, how challenging is it for somebody that's in their 40s trying to heal from trauma and trying to apply all these new, relationship practical things that you're talking about?
Well, it can be challenging. It's not the same. The way I equated it, I've got a learning disability. When I was in high school, we tested it. And after I was in college, one of the friends of my dad, whose son had one, and he said to my dad, he says, so Bob went to college and got a regular degree? My dad said, yeah. He says, they don't give learning disability degrees. And his point was, okay, if I had to work harder and get tutors, so be it. So, I mean, it is harder, but it's not like learning a second language like Helen Keller it's not that kind of hard. A lot of times, like we mentioned to Brittany, like with bored, is if we can simplify it to a few things, because if I practice boredom, that's not going to fix everything. But what it does is it stretches that muscle. It doesn't mean, okay, you're bored, this is got to marry. It's just what I do with women is I go on the front and tell me, what's your non-negotiables? What are the 3 things you've got to have? And that takes a little time. And so if it's, I don't care what they are, tall, loyal, something else. And I go, until he violates one of those 3, I want you to give him a chance. But I don't feel it. And I go, I'm trying to get them away from being intuitive. Because of their past, their intuition is skewed. Remember, intuition is based on knowledge. So I can be intuitive with clients. I'm not intuitive with a car. My granddad was a mechanic. I'm not. So I can make wild guesses. That's not being intuitive. But that's the tendency. What we do if we feel intensely is to think it's intuition. It's not. None of us are great intuitive in our own relationships because we're not objective. So that it feels intuitive, but it's not really what it is. They confuse intensity with intuition. Those are 2 separate things.
Exactly. Right. So what can we talk about with this new guy? Like, how can we prevent this from happening again? And how can we get her that commitment with this guy who's not giving her this commitment? How can we assess if this is a good guy for her?
So how about let's pace him? Yeah, that's no fun, isn't it? But it works. So if we pace him, how often are you seeing him?
4 or 5 times a week.
Okay, let's slow that down. So
Bob's already getting there. Yeah.
So how about let's cut it down to maybe once a week?
Okay.
Why? Because you're busy doing stuff. Something, I don't know. You're not mean, you're not ugly. And I'd love to just have a serious talk, but the problem with serious talks is it gets real intellectual and real masculine energy and stuff. This is not an intellectual problem. This is an emotional problem. It's not hard. Guy sees girl, guy likes girl, guy chases girl. So if it's not that simple, there's something going on with him, and he's not telling us what it is, and he's not going to. So unless he's involved in that, the problem with talks is he's going to tell you what he thinks, which could be anything depending on his mood. Sure. So instead of that, I would rather create a sense of tension. I want him to feel this. And what men hate more than anything else is to be ignored. Now, I don't mind game playing when the idea is I'm trying to be beneficial. Game playing's bad if I'm trying to jerk someone's chain or be ugly. That stinks. But I'm seeing him 4 or 5 times a week. He's not committing to me. So you're going to resent him after a while.
Sure.
And we don't want that. That's just natural. You give more than you get. Mm-hmm. And then what happens is he says some version of, why? And he's not going to say these words, but he's going to imply, why aren't you being convenient anymore? Why won't you let me take you for granted? How selfish of you. He won't say those words, but he will be upset. And you have to wait. And you're not sure. I'm busy over here. And that frustration works for you. That's not mean. Mean is your intention is to injure. This is not mean.
Right.
This is if you give more than you get over a period of time, it's bad for the relationship either way. So I'm trying to pull it back. And also, men need to pursue. That's how we bond. It's not a game. It's necessary for us. We need the chase, not all the time, but we need him. Taking you for granted is my worst fear. I'd rather him be mad than take you for granted. Taking you for granted is death for a relationship. Now, if you do this right, this will feel scary. So does the logic make sense?
Of course. Yes.
It feels good. Okay. So that's the one with Marisa, friends, and all that you remind yourself of. This is strategic. This is on purpose. This is not what feels normal. It's not going to. In fact, it should scare you, because if you're not willing to be scared, he will not feel it. And that's what we want. He has to feel what it's like to take you for granted. That's how men stop taking you for granted. Or it gets worse, he just leaves. If that's the case, I'd rather you see that now than 4 months from now.
Sure.
Yeah. So she should not, like, this is my insight to her was, she shouldn't breach that conversation and say, hey, what's going on with us? Because I don't think that ever works.
I mean, if you've been dating seriously for a year or something like that, I mean,
yeah,
that's what I mean. There's a place technically, but for this, if he's not stepping forward, I mean, I tell this to men sometimes. They'll go, I'm just not sure. I really think she's pretty. I love being with her, and I go, stop. Pretty and fun to be with is all I got. If that's not enough, and then I look at him, I have to know him. And the implication is that it's not her. I don't know what's going on, but let's take a look at what's going on with you, because it can't be that I really find her attractive and she's fun to be with, and I'm not sure, because that's all it takes. And if not, and so I don't know what his is, hesitation. If he's seeing you that much, men don't waste time with that.
Right.
I mean, they don't. I mean, women don't, but men really don't. And so he's not giving us privy to his injury or what he's doing with it. So instead of trying to do insight with him, what we do with a man that's scared is we create a sense of, it's your choice. By all means, take your time. I want him to feel that if he doesn't get up off all his rear end, someone else will snatch you up. You can't say that.
Right.
I mean, you can say it just sounds weird. But I want him to feel it, because remember, when a woman's done, they don't talk a lot. Women, it's hard to get a hold of her. She's busy. When a woman's done, I'll give you this quick. I remember a guy in college Mike told me he really liked Mary Beth, and he went to the dorm to see her, and they were on shaky ground. He said when she came down the stairs, she was in shorts and t-shirt, and his heart sank because he realized she didn't care. He knew. When she came down dressed casual, and it's true, she came down and said, we're not going out anymore or whatever. That was so much more impactful than her having a serious talk or whatever. And I never forgot that. So this is a version of that. So you're not going to see him say this, but if it makes sense, trust that this is what he's going to feel, because it's going to create a sense of mystery. That's what we want with men that are indecisive, is mystery, not insight.
Okay.
So she should pull back the amount of days she sees him, and what else could she do? Like, as far as talking to him on the phone, texting, what else is there for her to do? And how long should she wait? Should she wait a couple more months? How long is too long to wait?
If you do this, and I mean like cut back everything by 75%, length of phone calls, text, all that. See, if you were dating 10 men at once casually, you don't have time to go on out with him. For example. I mean, nothing personal, son, but I'd be rude of me with these 9 other men. I will be selfish. I can't do that. That's what it feels like to him. I just, what's she doing? Busy? What do you mean busy? Busy. Just, And women are good at being evasive when they want to. And that's not rude. It's just, you don't get all this information while you're figuring out what you want to do with me. But no, you don't say that. That's between you and me.
Of course.
That's ridiculous. So I'm not being ugly to him. In fairness to him, you've helped accommodate. Okay. And that's okay. You didn't know. And this adjustment, if you do this, what'll happen, Marissa, he'll get agitated. A man that's a waste of time will not tolerate this. He will not tolerate being paced.
So he'll just leave.
Oh, or he might shame and guilt, plead. He might turn on the charm and then ignore her for a couple of weeks. But it's no fun being paced by a woman when you're not all in.
Right.
When you're all in, it's no fun. But by golly, I'm going to get her. And it tends to start that hero gene in them. But if that's not where they're at, and if their focus is don't be hurt more than I want her heart, this tends to reveal it probably better than anything I know. It's just not what you do.
And Britt, will you tell him that you talked to other people that knew people he dated, and you had told me this, that he tends to be really private and go slow. And didn't you tell me that? It's a version of that.
Yeah, he's unlike men from my past. I mean, he's pretty cool as a fan. If it's just think of a straight line. If he's happy, it's a straight line. If he's sad, it's a straight line. He's not overly animated, overly charming. It's just cool, calm, collected, super about his family. You know, just pretty even keel was what I know about him.
He's really cautious.
Mm-hmm.
He needs to not be with you or a woman if that's what he wants, because you're dangerous. Make no apologies for it. You're an all-in kind of girl. And I say that girl specifically because I'm thinking like 14 years old when boys think about how mysterious girls are and, oh my gosh, they're terrifying and wonderful at the same time. We make no apologies for being dangerous. Doesn't mean you're going to hurt him, but will you stir up his motor? Yeah. Will you do it just by sitting next to him, smiling, or maybe disagreeing with him? Mm-hmm. And you're safe. But you're not the safe, cautious like everything else. You will disrupt his life. And that's actually what he needs. That's okay if he's not ready. But, the salesman for the Mercedes that cost $100,000, they do not apologize for the price. They don't say, what'll it take to get? No, they say it's $100,000. That's okay, son, if you can't afford it. There's a Toyota place down there. That's no shame in that. No shame.
But she's given herself on a silver platter and she's not getting a commitment. So it's like,
can I test drive this for another year, please? And I'll let you know if I want to buy it.
Yeah.
The salesman would say, you've lost your mind.
Right.
Even though I like you. So if you'll do this adjustment, honestly, in a few weeks, it may not take that long, he will feel the difference, and then you're going to start to see what's in his heart.
And see, with women like Britt and with a lot of us, there's a fear of loss with doing that. There's a fear that it's going to push them away. There's a fear of losing them. There's a fear of them not having interest in him anymore or thinking that we don't have interest. Right, Britt? Aren't those like some of your fears?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So how could you talk to her about those fears that come up with all of us women when it comes to that kind of stuff?
So if you had a 14-year-old daughter and she really liked this guy that was a jerk, what would you say to her?
Leave.
Well, if you yeah, because you can just say leave, and she's not gonna leave.
Right.
You're gonna
Yeah.
make her want him more.
That's true.
That's what you're thinking.
Yeah.
I'm assuming you'd be kind and you'd say, I understand. And she's 14, so she doesn't know there's going to be other guys. She doesn't know. For all she knows, this is the love of her life. That's what it feels like. And you have to give her permission to be upset. And you say, look, this is going to take a little bit of a leap of faith. I'm asking you to trust me, but this is what scares me about him. And it's there's nothing you're going to do to take her fears away as much as I don't like the way he's treating you. I'm not going to follow you around all day. And this is what I would tell my daughter. But if this is the kind of guy you think's good for you, then I've done a bad job as your dad. And we're saying the same thing to our heart or to our emotions I may not see what I want, but I'm done being taken for granted. I don't know. People that get out of debt have the same kind of conversation from I don't know what it takes, but I'm done being in debt. And it's when they get to that point, that's when things change. Without the promise of how they're going to get there, without you're 2 steps away, it'd be great to have that. We rarely get that, but it starts with, I'm done being an alcoholic, or I'm done, losing jobs, or I'm done being taken for granted. And that's not I hate myself kind of thing. It's much more of this isn't working. And I know it's going to be scary, but just because the only way to break a pattern, it's not so much take a sledgehammer as much as stop feeding it. Mm-hmm. And it'll feel like you're starving yourself. That's what the support system is really helpful with it. But I'm done being accommodating. And then who are you have to help reinforce that? That will affect the type of guys you end up with.
Wow. Well, Britt, did this help you at all?
Of course, yes. Thank you, Bob.
Awesome.
You're welcome. Merry Christmas.
Yeah, let's hope that Britt comes back and says, hey, I got that commitment. I'm getting married, right?
I can't wait.
I'm sure I'll be talking to you soon, Britt. Thanks so much for coming on.
Thanks, guys. Have a good night.
Okay.
Thanks,
Bye-bye. Well, Bob, that was amazing. Thank you so much. I want to get to some of the comments. A lot of these women are, agreeing with you. Everybody's saying amen, hallelujah. We have a question from one of our viewers. What about setting boundaries? If a guy goes away and then comes back in contact, especially if it's a casual situation, do you set the boundaries of what you will and won't accept again? So I'm assuming this guy violated boundaries, then comes back and violates boundaries again. Is that what you're saying, Margaret? I'm thinking that's what you're saying. How do you read that, Bob?
I think so. My biggest thing with boundaries is it's got to be enforceable. So, you want to think about what the boundary is. So if the guy is casual, leaves, comes back, leaves, come back. I mean, I can say I'm not going to accept this, but really what that means is either don't call me or leave me alone, or so as opposed to just telling someone how much I don't like it. So as long as setting boundaries is not just, I'm going to tell him and point it out like as though he doesn't understand, this is what's going to happen. Or the alternative is just, you just make it harder for him. And that's why I like the idea of, dating multiple guys, or at least going out, not so much to date a ton, but so that you don't get bonded to someone so quickly. I mean, no one wants to do that. I get it, but it's really a safeguard, versus just trying to make in. Because what I hate for women is guy starts dating them and all, and while he's figuring out whether he likes her, her heart's all the way into it. And I'm like, and while she's waiting on him to figure it out. So the short answer is yes, I would set boundaries, especially if he's hot, cold, hot, cold, hot, cold.
All right. Well, let's bring back Eric and see what he has to say as a guy hearing this backstage about women. But first, we're going to talk about Bob's books. And do I have the right information on the screen, Bob? Go to relationshipheadquarters.com for your blog, and you have a lot of free advice on your blog. People want to read some of the stuff you have to say. Your ebooks, people want to, right? You have programs, you have coaching stuff, you got a lot of stuff going on. So if you want to know about Bob, please visit relationshipheadquarters.com. He's awesome. He knows his SHIT, if you know what I'm saying. Let's just bring up a guy. Let's just bring Eric back. Let's just see how true. Well, Eric's the only one I have backstage, so I don't have a other random guy. But let's bring Eric back and say Eric, how true. Oh wait, you muted yourself, Eric. Can you unmute yourself?
So you didn't hear my big hi. There it is. Hi.
No. So you heard what he's saying about men. You heard what he's saying about what to do if you need the commitment. Is all of this true in your eyes, or how are you feeling about that?
I think that, if I am not interested in talking or hanging out every day, it's because I'm not interested in the situation as much as maybe somebody else is. I love that. I love your analogy about the cars. That's great. Because not everyone's a Mercedes. I may be more of a Dodge car, but either way, I love that. That's such a cool way to look at it from a third person point of view. There are some times that you are just all in and you want to see this person every day and talk to them every day and go and do everything, go to Home Depot and Wendy's and everything. And when you're just interested in just being by yourself and not texting up a storm, and there's a subconscious reason for that. There's something there that's not really, putting wind in your sails. And I always like to judge all of my relationships based on 80s power ballads. So if no one makes me feel like I want to write an 80s power ballad, I'm not interested. If it's not mixtape worthy, I'm not all in.
Okay. Thanks, Eric, for your insight. All right. We're going to bring our next lady on. Thanks, Eric. We're going to bring on Jen. She has a tendency to attract unavailable men, married guy, unavailable. How could she stop this? So let's bring her on. Hi, Jen.
Hi.
Hi, Jen.
How are you?
Excited to meet Bob.
Yeah. So, Jen, do you want to just let him know about kind of your past patterns a little bit?
Well, I've been single for 11 years. I'm 43. And since the 11 years, I've attracted unavailable, same thing, addictive, married, guys just looking for one thing. And I don't know how to break the pattern.
Okay, so how fast do you want to go tonight?
Full throttle.
Okay, because the faster it is,
Awesome.
the more bumpy it is. So, okay, one thing about these men is they're safe, right?
Safe.
Mm-hmm.
They're probably more bad boy.
Well, actually, they're safe because there's a built-in thing that's going to happen with them that makes it where you can't commit to them.
Yes.
And so I'm saying this because this is how clever your brain and mine is. So when I used the example earlier of the woman that goes from one alcoholic to the next, she's not stupid. I've sat in groups in the hospital, and some of those women were so attractive and so nice and all that you would think they would just smile, but they would get one alcoholic after another. And I realized all that stuff I'd read in graduate school was true. I thought, oh my gosh, this stuff is real. And it's what I'm generalizing. You tell me what part fits. We tend to do patterns because our brain is saying, there's something here you haven't resolved. And it's not necessarily like always some heart deep secret, whatever. It's either I'm not going to feel out of control or I'm going to try to resolve something through somebody else and all. And I'm assuming what all these guys have in common, I'm guessing, is some degree of either exciting, fun, wonderful, but they at least stir up emotions.
Yeah.
Maybe quickly.
I like excitement.
Excitement,
I don't
yeah.
like boring.
Yes.
Yes.
And this is how our brain does it. It says, you know what? I don't ever want to be trapped again. So if I'm a teenager, the way to make sure I'm not in a bad thing, I need to feel it right away because I do not want to waste time on something wrong. So that instant click, connection, that kind of stuff, that's a good indicator if he's a good, terrible indicator. But it doesn't feel like it. I mean, it's fun for all that's adrenaline based. It's really great stuff. Just like sugar is a wonderful thing to feel good short term. Just, but then there's always a crash with it, which means if you get in too quick, and you tell me, the tendency is now, how can I help it? How can I save it? How can I fix it? Yes, no?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. So don't like bored, huh?
No,
Really
but I enjoyed being married too. I liked stability.
Yes.
Just married the wrong person.
Okay. So, have you ever been on a date with anyone that was kind of boring?
Yeah.
Okay. And how quickly did he get written off?
I wouldn't go on a second.
Yes. Okay. So, again, if I say boring, it's not short, bald, and fat, or pick whatever 3 things that would terrify you. It's not that.
No.
But it is exciting. Is not the best indicator. Now, it doesn't mean let's marry someone that bores you to tears. It's not that. If your brain and mine, I'm guessing, thinks it's protecting you, this is a clever problem. It's not a stupid problem. It's not, I got a hard head or something. You're not saying this, but I hear this stuff. I'm just dumb. It's not that. It's really the back part of your brain, and it says, I'm going to make absolutely certain on the front end. It's a way of avoid being vulnerable. It's a way of taking a risk. And there's no escaping that, though. So if I know ahead of time, like if you had some guy and you're in my office and you were dating him seriously, I would look at you and say, is this guy you want to hurt you? No, I don't want that. So he's going to. I said, now, hopefully not on purpose and not mean. I said, but he's going to, because you were married, that just happens at times in marriage, even the best of them. So what's it going to feel like if I had a magic wand and said, wow, I need you to give every guy 3 chances before you blow them off? I saw that. Can you put that in words?
I would love to meet the right person. I mean,
Yes.
11 years is a long time.
Yes. So I'm going to, can I push a little bit?
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, of course, what are you going to say, right? We're on camera. So meeting the right guy. But the other thing is there's probably a number of guys that could be the right guy. And so if it's about meeting the right guy, the problem is now we're going to have pressure to narrow down and decide quickly and stuff. Some men you're going to know quickly. Some men take longer. And the reason I say is because I see this in office romances all the time. No one forced it. It's just some 6 months they work together and bam, it hits them. Sometimes, I mean, you ask the person right away, oh, this isn't the one. Again, no one talks themselves into it. So it's not that. Now, this is a different way of dating. This is different. And if I've been through trauma, the tendency is I want to date a certain way and get married a certain way. And if I get to know someone, I go, that doesn't work. Not because I say so. It's dating for the quick thing is high school. He's cute, he's fun, go to the prom with him, awesome. I don't know about marrying him, go to the prom, have a blast.
Yes. Yeah, I feel like I need to get to know them first, to like them. Okay. So if I go on like Match.com and I go on a blind date, they're the ones I write off real fast. But the people I know I worked with or I knew for a long time from the neighborhood, I give them more of a chance.
Okay. So if I had magic pixie dust and I could not make you, but somehow put you under a spell where you gave all men a chance, that would be more of an effort with some. But because, and let's do an analogy with it. So your heart is $1 million. You don't give it to anyone, but a lot of men, all they want is a chance to pitch. All they want is a chance to convince you. And I'm asking you to give them more of a chance. That doesn't mean give me your $1 million. Gracious no. Because if it's your $1 million, you can listen to anyone's pitch. It doesn't mean they're getting it. I mean, in general, the answer is no unless I'm convinced. Some men may take longer, and you gave us a good clue there. There's some aspects where I do give men more of a chance. See, for women, that's what I'm asking women to do, not talk themselves into it. That's yuck. Not pretend you like something you hate. That's terrible. But it's his job to convince you. So with dating, you don't audition, he does. And if you don't audition and he does, some men are better at pitches than others. And if we go out with multiple men, part of what I'm after is that one, it keeps you getting too serious too quickly. And sometimes our heart takes longer. I mean, if I've got scar tissue, it's going to take me longer to see someone and fall in love, because I need to go through being a little bored at times and excited, and I need to see what he's like in different things. I mean, yes, if he's never exciting, that's a problem. I mean, the nice thing is you'll never end up with someone. Tell me what you're feeling when you hear me say this. Please?
Okay. What do I feel?
Yeah.
I feel like it's a little kid saying please.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So this is going to be vulnerable to do this, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So vulnerable doesn't mean transparent. Yes, that doesn't mean we just share everything. It's not that. Vulnerable is giving men a chance actually helps break up scar tissue. It's good for you also. Breaking up scar tissue at times is uncomfortable, but it's not sledgehammer stuff. It's not that. Just pound it. It's, if we had a little girl that was hurt and injured, at some point we have to tell her it's okay to take a chance. And that's not a one-time thing. I have to remind her. If I'm the father, I say, it's okay. But I'm scared, nervous. I said, yeah, I don't blame you. I'm scared too. You can be scared and take a chance. I don't want to feel that again. See, the beauty is, as an adult, I can feel scared. That's not the same thing as being scared at 6. I can feel out of control, but that's not the same thing as out of control at 10. It may feel the same. It's not the same, though. That's how we heal from it, is that I can be scared and in control. The way for it to be stuck is I'm just not going to feel out of control. I'm just not going to be bored. And I can do with anything. And once someone starts, I'm not ever going to, I'm like, never. I've got men that do this. I'm never going to be bored. Never. I mean, you want a woman that's always on? You want a woman that always says yes to you? You'll be bored out of your mind if she always says yes. That's crazy. But they just don't want to be in a bad relationship. I go, you're going to create one with that. And see, I wouldn't want that pressure on you or Marissa or any woman. that, oh gosh, he's in a bad mood. Hey, he's in a bad mood. All right. I mean, because if you can't see him in a bad mood, then we're kind of fragile. I said a lot there. Tell me what you're thinking about anything.
I agree. I feel like there has to be balance. Like there's good, bad days, and I keep hearing myself say, I see the good in everyone. I don't know why I keep hearing that to tell you. So maybe I like avoid the red flags. I just see the good points of everyone.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that's why I'm scared.
So, actually, I love that quality. Let's don't change that. That's a great quality. And if that's a gift, any gift, we have to have caution with it because people take advantage of it. Because they just assume she always sees the good. Yes, part of seeing the good in someone is also seeing the areas that are scary or they have problems. It would be no good if my wife always saw the good in me and never pointed out if I was condescending. That actually wouldn't be good for me. It would give me the impression I don't need to work on that. And then children come along, oh, they'll tell you.
I feel like I see like the good and I'm forgiving, but I don't, like what Marissa was saying, like I don't see red flags that are there and I should. So I take too long to get rid of the bad ones.
So if you'll give yourself permission to see them, you'll start seeing them.
So I guess what you're saying, Jen, just to interject here a little bit, is with people that grew up with inconsistent parenting, where there was a parent that was nurturing one minute and then they had bad behavior the next minute. I think in relationships, it's like, oh, well, there's bad behavior, but that person's going to change into all good. They're not, going to be that inconsistent all the time. So it's hard for people, I think, with inconsistent childhoods to believe inconsistency in safety. And you keep seeing the bad behavior. But if you grew up with inconsistency, you know that at some point they're going to have good behavior. So it's like, do you accept both? Be like, oh, or do you just continue to be hopeful that one day that person's going to change their bad behavior? I think with people, is that kind of like, Jen, is that kind of making sense to you what I'm saying?
No, so my mom's like a holy roller.
Okay.
And she only sees the good in people where she'll ignore the bad. So I feel like I have a bad judge of character. So someone else could see like major red flags and warn me where I just see the good points of them. I don't see the red flags.
So did your mom do that in her marriage?
Yeah.
Okay,
I mean, they're still together. My dad did change, but
there was inconsistency there with him that she kind of.
So what you were saying was my parents, but with me, I don't see the red flags where I should.
You really don't see them? I don't know if I believe that. I think you're intuitive enough where you do.
Oh, maybe I do. I ignore them.
Yeah, there's two different things because I don't think you don't see them.
I might push them under the rug.
I think we all do. But Bob, it's like, where do we get to the point where we either believe that the angel's there or the devil's there? Like, where do you get to the point where you're like, okay, like, where do you get to that point?
Yes, I'm assuming, Jen, you've got a high pain tolerance.
Yes.
Yeah. Which, congratulations. Now, the downside is you have a high pain tolerance. And some of this is knowing as far as ahead of time what's out of balance for you. So Marissa and I were talking about this one time. So for me, someone cursing at me, don't like it, didn't grow up with that, just out of bounds. And it doesn't mean I hate the person, but that's just whatever it takes. That's got to stop. Some people grew up in certain families, they're used to that. That for some reason doesn't bother them. I don't get that. But once that happens, yeah. Mm-hmm.
My dad's very old school. He's never cursed in front of women. Not to be gross, they've been married 40 some years, never even passed gas in front of my mom. Like we don't hit, we don't curse. Like there's certain things you don't do in front of women, and that's hard to find these days.
So what's out of bounds for you though?
Definitely cursing, and I would never tolerate anyone that would strike me.
Okay. So I'm going to give you that as a given, thank goodness. But when you say you might ignore red flags, what things in hindsight have you ignored?
Alcoholism.
Okay. So, what
Cheating,
say what?
player, like cheating and player.
Okay. So that's more of a what's the fear if you don't ignore it? If you call it, take action. If you
I guess like that you'll lose them if you really like them.
Okay. And so, what do you think keeps you from committing too quick before you see these qualities in men?
Well, I haven't really had an opportunity to commit.
So, okay. Let me make sure I'm on the same page. So, at what point have they cheated on you? Like second date, first date?
No, I just seem to attract like players that, date multiple people, liars, oh, I fell asleep and then they're on Facebook tagged in at a bar with some other girl.
And with that attraction, I'm trying to think how to say this. How desperate is it to change that pattern?
Oh, I don't want to go down that road.
Okay.
I'm very desperate to change.
Okay. So I'm going to do something with you. This is for everyone. This is going to be a little vulnerable. Okay. So you said something. Yes. Okay. No. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. You said something there that sounded kind of painful, but then you laughed. And that's not to make you self-conscious, but a lot of times that's a way of numbing out. So if I say, my mom died yesterday, see, you don't get it. It's not that I got to cry. It's just, it's not funny. And that doesn't mean me telling someone what they're supposed to feel. It's not that, but that little quick thing, and a lot of folks do that. That's not uncommon, but I do that enough, I start numbing out. And then I give men the impression that I'm tougher than I am.
Oh, yeah. I always play the cool girl.
Yeah. And the downside, there is such a thing, it's called overcompensating. And I just picked that one thing. I mean, again, a lot of us do this, and I'm not saying that's the worst thing, but it gives us a clue from if I numb out like that, doing it once is no big deal. But when it starts to be a habit, it starts to numb out. That's the way I end up tolerating. That's the way I end up ignoring stuff. It's because I numb out so I don't feel it. I see it, but it doesn't bother me a lot. I get that I shouldn't, but the feelings are missing. But see, the feelings are vulnerable, feel kind of scary. See, imagine if you said stuff when you couldn't laugh. Not trying to make you paranoid, not trying to get rid of a sense of humor. And again, not telling you how to feel. It's just, you see how that didn't match?
I guess I felt like I didn't have the right because we weren't in a committed relationship to feel hurt, but I did.
I like that. What if you have the right to all your feelings?
Like that.
That would change stuff, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Men will feel the difference. Guys that are a waste of time will have no tolerance for it. Because I can't guilt you, can't shame you. What's wrong? It doesn't work. I'm pushing buttons on an elevator. Nothing's working. Why are you not groveling, complaining, acquiescing? Ugh. And they're very good at it because it works. A woman that's good at putting her heart first, you can't shame her. You can hurt her, but you can't. She won't own it. You might as well tell her she's a giraffe. It's strange, but she doesn't know what to do with it. She doesn't relate to it. I mean, again, you can hurt her. You have a right to all your feelings. It doesn't mean just if you feel something that just blasts somebody. It doesn't mean necessarily that what we feel, that their interpretation's right. But tell myself, I don't have the right to feel. This is not a fuss. I mean, this is encouragement. Would be like, tell myself I don't have the right to be hungry because it's nighttime. My knee shouldn't hurt because I slept last night. I mean, it's silly if I apply it to those things. What if your feelings are actually trying to help you? Maybe you weren't taught or it wasn't modeled. Okay, parents do the best they can. Most of the time, even if they don't do a great job, they do. What's it like now? Us talking about this.
A little sad.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You know, when you say that, that actually makes you a lot more real. When you say that. Because see, that fits.
But I still laughed.
No. I mean, you're going to. That's not going to go away all at once. But the fact that you're aware of it changes it.
Yeah.
Once someone's aware of it, it becomes harder to do it. I mean, and I've done this with clients, and I say, look, you're going to fail. We're not keeping score. It's not like, did you do it 3 times? It's not that. I said, just be aware of it, and you'll start to catch yourself every time. And by doing that, it just keeps us from numbing out. And we're not trying to change everything. That's too much. It's a way of reconnecting your head and your heart, the way women are wired. I mean, women are supposed to flow head, heart. That's men, not so much, but women, yes, that's y'all's advantage. That's where your intuition comes from. But if I'm thinking or feeling, like most women, by the time I see them, probably Marissa, are just thinking oriented because it's safer. And it kills them in relationships. And it's not for lack of trying.
And I think I overthink too. So that kills things.
Yeah, and because you are the spark. He's the fire, but you are the spark. Your weirdness, your sadness, your laughter, all of that stuff. Men are not fragile. I understand you've been given a terrible advice that men are fragile. Men are not fragile. Saying this for emphasis. Men are not fragile. I don't care if they tell you they're fragile. I mean, we all have bad days. Men are not fragile. A woman is dangerous. She's emotional. She's wonderful. She heals. She hurts. Everything. All that kind of stuff. And it's no fun not having her in your life. And there's no comparison to a woman and getting a pet dog. I don't care what guys say. They don't want that. But it starts with you. All those feelings that you keep in check are the treasure. It may not feel like it, but it makes you more real, makes you 3-dimensional. And guys that are wasted time will have no tolerance for it. I tell folks a lot, my wife, alcoholics hate her. She finds their antics amusing. They just couldn't, they just hate her. I don't even think they get past one date. She finds it childish. That's just not her button. It's just, I feel sorry for the guys. At least I did. You don't necessarily have to do it like that. But if you have the right for all your feelings, doesn't mean you always know how to interpret them. They will protect you. They'll let you know. And the more you start practicing with them, the more it becomes almost like a magical guide.
Like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was awesome, Bob. Thank you.
Oh, thank Jen. I appreciate
Jen,
you being honest to be vulnerable.
I know, and it's interesting because I was kind of observing, and I saw a change in your energy when you became vulnerable and open. Like it was almost like this beauty, and you came out in this gorgeous light. It's weird. I'm sure that people saw it. Like I saw it. Like
I felt like a spring.
Look at Eric. Eric, yeah, see, he's agreeing.
Yeah, 100%.
Eric, did you see the change?
When you first started talking, you were this very tough, protected person on this screen here, and then as you opened up, you became like this warm, like sweet, totally open, different person than when you first started. It was really cool to watch.
No, I felt something when he said, "Feel free to feel your feelings." Like I felt like a release. It was weird.
Yeah, and so for me and Jen, I'm a lot like Jen. I feel like almost like weak if I allow that part of me out. Like that's the part of me that can get hurt. So it's like you almost feel like a weirdo.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like
that's the cancer.
But I saw like this beauty come out.
But notice for Jen, I'll bet Jen probably didn't feel the way they're describing. No.
It felt scary a little.
Yes. And see, that's the paradox, is that on the inside, it feels vulnerable, scary over here. But Eric's got a great point. But that's not the way it looks. To the man, it looks like, oh my gosh. But it doesn't feel that. So a lot of those women are like, I need to be confident and strong and all that. I mean, that's great at times. I mean, I can talk to Eric if I want confident and strong all the time. I mean, let's go have a beer. I mean, I'm not saying there's not a place for that, but it's just, I got buddies like to do that stuff with. I mean, we don't want to want falls apart all the time, but what you just did, that's what we can't go to Walmart to buy. That's why we don't mind paying for dinner. That's why we don't mind that stuff. We can work to make more money, but we can't get that. That's the prize, is what you did.
Yeah, I brought Britt back onto it. I don't even know if she's still there. I didn't want her left out backstage.
Jen, can I just tell you that when you first started, you were the girl at the bar that could give or take me standing next to you and probably not care at all. And towards the end of this conversation, you're the kind of person that someone would want to spend until 6 a.m. at a diner talking to. There were two different people on this call, 100%.
I can't wait to watch the replay.
Yeah, well, there you are.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate you picking me to come on tonight.
Well, you put yourself out there, right? You were brave. There's not a lot of people that were brave enough to do what you did.
No, and I was so nervous. I was even talking to Kelly through text. I'm like, I'm so nervous. I don't know if I can do this. Thank you.
You did
so
it.
much.
Do you feel better now that you did it?
Yes, I'm so happy. And I feel like such a release. I don't know how to explain it. Like a freedom.
That's because you're not holding your breath all the time.
Yeah.
So this is what you normally are. What you're used to.
Look at how happy she is.
Look at that smile. That wasn't around an hour ago.
See,
I know it wasn't.
It'll come out on its own. It just has to have permission. Just like with a child, you want a child to open up, and the first thing they'll do is until they're scared or mad. If we shut that down and say, no, be happy, they won't open up. But if it's okay to be scared, they'll do that first before they start opening up the rest. But it's got to be, I love you regardless of what you feel, not just when you're happy and fun.
Right.
Because that's what you did.
We saw the magic. We saw the magic wand. We actually like felt it. Like I felt you coming to life. Like you just were like, not to like, I'm just being honest, but you were more lifeless at first. And then this like sparkly energy and cool vibe just was like, whoa, that's beautiful. What just happened?
Yeah. And I felt like he hit the nail on the head. I felt like I always had to be the cool girl and just go with the flow and accommodate instead of owning my feelings.
Well, you did such a great job tonight, Jen, and I hope this helps you moving forward. And we were only supposed to do an hour, but we're here an hour and a half. So I appreciate everybody's time. And Bob, thank you so much. Eric and Britt. I don't know if Britt's still there. Let's see if she's still there. Britt, are you still there?
Hey guys, great job, Jen.
Yeah.
Thank you,
any words that you want to say, Britt?
I don't have anything in closing.
All right. Well, thank you for coming on. You did a wonderful, brave job. Thank you so much. All right, guys. Well, thanks everybody for being here. Thanks everybody in the chat room, and also just bringing up Bob's information. Bob and his books, relationshipheadquarters.com. And is there anything you would like to say to our audience, Bob?
I appreciate you having me. And ladies, I appreciate you being willing to be vulnerable. That is 60% of it. That's a big part, just the willingness to take a look inside and listen and consider. Because notice we didn't change who you were. We just cleared out some stuff so it could come out.
Well, people have a lot to say today.
Yep.
Good job. Everybody's kind of thanking you, Bob, for being here. Everybody's happy. This is great.
Bob, you rock star.
Thanks, Lisa, for this awesome comment. Bob, you are a rock star.
100%.
And I mean, your books, your ebooks, if people want this information, it's in your ebooks, right? I mean, it's there. And I'm sure your ebooks are affordable to everybody. So you guys, there's no reason why you can't go on Relationship Headquarters and get Bob's books. There's really no reason for it. You need to just do it because you could get it instantly, right? You don't have to wait for it to come in the mail. It's an ebook. What would you say for somebody first starting out reading your material? What's the best first book to get?
The Woman Men Adore.
And what's the rest of that title?
That Men Never Want to Leave.
See, the N word. Oh my God. And that's a strong word. they don't ever want to
I mean,
leave.
that's Eric. Eric is, every guy knows that woman. Every guy, usually men say there's something about her. It's different for each guy, but every guy knows if I say that, there's a memory that pops up. They'll go, oh yeah. And they don't always say she was the tallest or the blondest, or they don't always do that, but they just take a deep breath or something, whether it's high school, college, whatever. That's what this program's about, is what that woman has. And it's not so much becoming someone else. It's more about it's inside of you. And that was a good example, Jen, that it was in her. See, we didn't change anything. It was there. And so
I know.
it's much easier than
Magic.
trying to make something on top of it.
Oh my God, look at Jen. She's smiling. I've done readings for Jen for a long time, and every time she came in, she did not smile.
I usually cried.
I could not get her to smile. And Bob, look, Lisa said, you're good. I couldn't get her to smile. You got her to smile. You got her to look at this beautiful smile. It's amazing.
That's because you've been prepping her. I appreciate it.
I did not.
She didn't.
No, I meant
No.
all this time. I meant like accumulation. So
I haven't talked to Jen in years. It's Brittany I talk to all the time.
There's nothing more attractive than someone that is just open and fluid in conversation and thought. You could be like a knockout model, but if you're hollow, it's not attractive. But if you are open and fluid and you have lots to share, verbally, emotionally, that is the most attractive thing to any guy. I don't care. Well, maybe if you ask a 15-year-old, they'll say differently, but a grown man, I'm telling you, that is the most attractive thing in the world.
Jen's like, I feel weird right now.
No, I'm just so like taking everything
Taking it in.
in. It was a great night. I'm so glad I got picked. Thank you.
See, because you were scared and you pushed through it anyway, just like Bob was talking about how we tell our kids, we know you're scared, but push through it, take the risk. And you were scared and you pushed through it and took the risk. And look what you got. A lot of benefit. So we hope you take that into your next choice with a man. And we hope
Hopefully I'll be telling you soon I met someone.
Yeah, you'll be showing the sparkler. That's what I want to say. All right, guys. Well, thanks everyone for being here. And remember to visit Relationship Headquarters for Bob and his books, and subscribe to the YouTube channel. Check out Bob's books.
Checking out Bob's books.
Me too.
Everybody wants Bob's books.
Page.
All right. Thank you, Bob. Do you want to know what's really weird about how I ran into Bob Grant again in life? Because I talked to him 7 years ago when he was on the show. He thought that I was a different Marissa and actually emailed me like about a project, like a graphic project. No, not no.
yeah,
That sounds
graphic
weird.
design.
Graphic design. And I'm like, oh no, I'm not the designer. I'm the medium. And he's like, oh, we have to catch up. I believe nothing's coincidence. He's here for a reason. And Bob showed back up right at the right time. We just started the show 4 weeks ago, and you were at the beginning of Intuitive Radio, so you knew when it was time, Bob.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we hope to see you again at some point. All right, guys. Everybody's saying way to go. Great job. Everybody did a wonderful job. Thanks, guys. We'll see you next week.
Thanks for having me, guys. I
All right.
appreciate it.
Bye. Thank you.
Okay, bye-bye. All right, everybody. Thanks so much for coming out to the lounge tonight. We really, really appreciate all of your dedication and your viewership and all the rest of the great stuff that we have. And I'm Medium Marissa Appel, and I've learned a lot tonight, and I hope you guys did too. I'll see you next week for the office and the porch. If you missed last night's porch, Debbie is on the chat. I visited her porch, designed her kitchen, and she got a mediumship reading. So if you're interested in a surprise mediumship porch reading of me just going on a porch and reading somebody, check it out. And we're going to have her back on next week to talk about her updates. So we will see you then. Have a great night. Bye.